Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Money Mindset Manifesting Business Show. We have this gorgeous Ramona with us today, and we are going to be talking about something slightly different. This is mindfulness and the mindset in healing, especially with professional women that are constantly feeling burnt out and overwhelmed. This is going to be such a beautiful topic for everyone watching and listening. Welcome, Ramona. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm just going to read Ramona's bio real quickly. Ramona Crabtree-Falkner is a transformational empowerment coach, speaker, and holistic wellness expert with over 20 years of experience. Through her business, Authentic Life Journey, she helps professional women who are overwhelmed, burnt out, or stuck rediscover their purpose, reclaim their energy, and thrive with authenticity, both in life and work. Ramona is also the founder of the Empowered Authenticity Coaching Program and leads transformational retreats, nice, and corporate mindfulness programs that support deep healing, joy, and sustainable alignment. That is sounding amazing, Ramona. I can't wait to dive in. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Tell us how you got into this type of coaching, especially working with professional women that are very burnt out and overwhelmed. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you so much. So as I said, I've been in this field for 20 years. I started out as a massage therapist, found my way into yoga teaching, which opened a whole world of spiritual development and understanding about energy. I spent the majority of my childhood and young adulthood not feeling very smart, because the way that I learned and the way that I understood the world, I wasn't taught how I need to be taught. And it wasn't until I found energy and energy work and spirituality that all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I understand all of this. Wow. And it made so much sense. And so I didn't really have a deep connection until I was about 10 years into my practice. And that connection that came through was because I was falling apart, because I didn't understand. I was taking on everyone's energy. I was taking on everyone's woes, and I was carrying it around, and it was just draining me of my life force energy.
Yeah.
So I had a couple medical events. The big one was I ended up with a tumor on my thyroid. And so I had to have my thyroid removed. And that started a whole journey of learning to connect with my authentic voice, which then led to ultimately the creation of Authentic Life Journey. So the first half of my career, my business was a different name.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was through that healing journey and beginning to understand how energy was talking to me and how my body was becoming the messenger of the imbalance, that I was able to really take everything that I had learned over the 10 years prior and start applying it in a way to help others also look at their lives from that place of, okay, what is out of alignment? What is out of balance? What is it that I have learned behaviorally that is not working? And so my original coaching program was just set up to take all these tools that I had gathered and share them with people, so that it moved from a place of reading a book and being like, oh, that's a really great concept, to applying it.
Yeah.
So yes. My programs were about applying what I had learned, instead of just reading a book and being like, that's great information, but how do I live that?
Yes.
Right?
That's awesome. You mentioned that you were learning how energy talks to you. Tell us a bit about that, especially if someone's watching or listening and they have no idea how powerful energy is and the frequency and all the things. So what does that mean when you say the energy was talking to me?
Well, that's multi-layered.
Yeah, sure.
Originally it started out with understanding the chakra system. So looking at those 7 houses and seeing that each energy center, if we look at this from the Reiki perspective or from the yoga perspective, there's 7 major houses, and there's many more chakras, but those are the 7 major houses. And in those 7 major houses, you have specific themes that align to you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if there's anything that's out of balance in any one of those planes of your body, then eventually it could show up as disease in the body.
So that's interesting, because you were saying, sorry to interrupt you, Ramona.
Yeah.
You were saying your thyroid, right? And to me, that is the throat center.
Yes.
So how did that affect you? Were you, I honestly, when you were saying as a kid, I took on everyone's emotions, proper empath, right? And I feel empaths have throat issues because you're too scared to say. And so how did that impact you? If you're talking about present, did you put the 2 and 2 together?
Yes. So after I had the surgery to remove the thyroid, I had a whole several years of hormone issues because again, being a highly empathetic and energetic being and very in tune with energy, I wasn't putting together that what was actually out of balance wasn't physical anymore. It was mental, emotional, and spiritual. Right. So I had to do the work. I had to look at my past. I had to look at my upbringing. I had to look at all the things that I was operating on and evaluate if those were true for me anymore. And the truth was, I was living out someone else's version of me. Yeah. I
get that. I was just telling someone just the other day that in my early 20s, I was a chameleon, and I just adapted to everyone. I didn't know my favorite drink or my favorite color or my anything. And that is really living someone else, right? I get that.
And it's funny you say that, because that's one of the things that I experienced is I moved to Texas, and all of a sudden I pick up a Texas twang. Well, I'm from Florida. Like I wasn't raised with that. I just naturally, whoever I was around, I morphed into that energy. And so as I began to understand what being an empath was, as I began to understand my intuition as a feeler, as an empath, as a tactile, clairsentient, it began to help me start deciding where I wanted to be, who I wanted to be surrounded with, what kind of energy I wanted to show up in that situation. So ultimately what I learned was that I actually have the power to decide the frequency, not the other way around.
Love it. Yes. Yeah. That is taking control of your life, right?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. And so a lot of what I experienced was, clients showing up and being like, I'm overstimulated by everything in the world. And yes, a little bit of that is our nervous systems being, raised in a very fight or flight kind of way. But as an empath, it also was not, we haven't been trained to understand that. Like I wasn't brought up to understand my intuition and my empathy and why it is I felt the way I did. And so in the recent years, I have been really tapping into this concept that I love, and I am excited to do more with it as it unfolds. But that instead of coming into our awareness of being an empath as I'm affected by everyone. Right? Oh my gosh, I'm affected by everyone. That's such a root chakra victim archetype response to being an empath. So instead of coming in that way, I had this aha moment, because I'm a yoga teacher. I've been leading trainings. I've led CEUs. I did workshops. What happens in the room when I come in the room? The frequency lifts. Everyone feels better when they come out. And so this channeling of information around being an empath is actually a superpower. So if I can come into a room and I can raise the frequency in an environment that I want to be in, can't I do that in an environment that's uncomfortable?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a choice. It's a practice, right?
manipulating energy, right? It's just,
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
manipulating to me is a
absolutely.
little bit of a hard word, but it's
It is
more
a
about
hard word, but we all understand it.
yeah,
Yes,
raising that
yes,
energy, raising that frequency,
it's
raising
true.
that vibration.
Because I feel as an empath, we tend to walk in a room, you feel it's tense, and immediately you match that energy,
Yes,
right? Because you want people to feel comfortable. You want everything to be calm. So let's
right,
match the energy
right,
and not, but it's so, so good to know that you get to choose the
right.
energy.
And
Beautiful.
so then with the work that I do, it's about helping those highly sensitive, empathetic women that are in professional environments where they're feeling all of that intensity, decide and align to their authentic self completely. And then when they walk into the room, they can help bring that frequency up. So I had a client, a new client that I just had a call with. And she said to me, she said, I couldn't, like my jaw dropped. She says to me, she's, well, I know imposter syndrome is just going to be something I'm going to have to deal with all the time. And I was like,
No.
oh, wow. And so I said, hold up. I said, I have a question. She's like, yeah. I said, do you want to believe that? She was like, well, isn't it true? And I said, what if I told you that it doesn't have to be? What if I told you you never have to feel imposter syndrome again? And she said, what?
That's a thing?
Right? And I said, yeah. I said, if you are so aligned with yourself, if you know who you are, if you know what you value, then anything you experience is either in alignment or out of alignment. It's not about whether it has anything to do with you. It has to do with, is this person's frequency meeting yours? Can they raise up into that higher frequency with you or not? Because if somebody can't rise up into that higher frequency with me, it's misaligned. I don't need to be there.
Yeah.
So if it's a no, it's an alignment issue.
Yes. So you mentioned to be in alignment with your authentic self. Talk a little bit about what is your authentic self, just to bring some clarity. Like, what is?
So your authentic self is when you can show up and be you no matter where you are, right? You can show up and speak without fear, speak without worry of offending, choose who you're going to spend your time and energy with, choose how you're going to speak. So I had this yesterday with a client. There are sometimes that not speaking is actually how you address the frequency. I don't have to participate in a conversation that is misaligned with my values.
It's really just a matter of becoming so aware of what is happening in your body, what is happening in your thoughts, that you can feel disconnected.
Yeah, this isn't right for me. And just and be okay with saying, I don't have to be here. I don't have to do this. Or I do have something to say, and I do believe it's going to make an impact, and it is worthy of being said. I honestly, when I'm in certain such scenarios, I look at the audience that I'm speaking to, and I'm just, whether that's one person or several, and I think when something is said to me, and maybe I'm triggered a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, how do I want to interact with this? Right? So the question I ask is, am I going to be heard? Is it worth expending energy with someone who is going to just fight back?
Yep.
And so for me, taking that pause and evaluating, is this an aligned conversation for me, or is this a place for me to say, do you, bye?
Right. So it's the pause.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like it's really just honoring that pause. You don't have to react immediately. And I honestly feel, especially as empaths, we don't like people arguing with us. But it's very confrontational. And for myself, for sure, I hate that. So it's lovely that you say, take the pause and think to yourself, is it worth it? Should I just walk away?
Yeah. So it's all about the value of my energy, right? So I can either participate in an energy that is going to drain me, or I can participate in a way that is going to leave me feeling settled in myself. And so for
Yeah.
me, authenticity is about acting based on what is aligned for me.
Yes. Constantly remembering that. We
Mhm.
do forget because you just become
Mhm.
normal human and you're
Yep.
in the rat race half the
Yep.
time. So now, if someone is feeling really stuck and overwhelmed, how can they reconnect with that authentic self? How do you bring that back in?
Yeah. So it takes a little practice. It takes
Right.
education and it takes practice. In truth, being that my background is in yoga, my program is rooted in practices, and that's the way I teach my clients, is that I'm giving you a pathway that you can circle back and use anything that I'm giving you at any time. But you
Yes.
only have access to using it if you practice it. So you have to give yourself space to meditate. You have to give yourself space to breathe. You have to give yourself space to be quiet, to do yoga, to take long, walks, to journal. And so, it's funny because I hear this often. Well, I have difficulty doing, and I'm like, well, that's why you have to practice it. So I shifted the word from do the work to do the practice.
Yeah, it's like any sports
Hmm.
person or
Hmm.
musician, all the things, right? Coaching,
Hmm.
whatever it is, you have to just driving a car. I'm teaching my boys
Hmm.
at the moment to drive a car, and my one son was saying, how long will it take me to be really comfortable? I said, well, do you practice every day or once
Yeah.
a month, right?
Yeah.
So it
Right.
really it must become a habit. Like, you get up, you brush your teeth, you don't even
Yeah.
think of it, just that routine.
Yeah.
um I
Yeah.
think it makes it so powerful when you get
Yeah.
into that. I
Right.
think you need to feel you are important enough to take
Hmm.
the time to meditate, to take the time
Yes.
to spend this amount of time is on me. It's non-negotiable. That's it. I think
Well,
that's
and it's mindset, right? So however you think about what it is that you are putting your energy towards is the outcome you're going to get out of it. So I had a client the other day that she came in. She was like, "Well, I have quiet time on my schedule." I'm like, "Well, how do you feel about the word quiet?"
mm.
And then we kind of dug into that a little bit and came to realize that as a child, she was told, "Go to your room and be quiet." So
Wow,
quiet was
is
not a
not good.
powerful word for her.
Right. Not
So
good at
instead,
all.
we shifted it to me time,
Yes.
and that felt more powerful for her.
That's right. You need to be so mindful of the words you use because they carry a frequency. And I
Yes.
don't think people even realize, driving in the car, listening to the news about all the horrid things going on.
Hmm.
How do you feel at the end of the day, right? Carrying a frequency. If people can just take that away from this conversation, everything carries a frequency.
Right.
Being mindful of
Yes.
where you put yourself in and what you listen
Yes.
to.
And
Oh,
that is
love it.
so important. And again, that's part of the journey that I went through, was realizing that the behaviors I was in, the people I was around, the kinds of activities I was involved in had to change as I was changing.
Yes.
And that's uncomfortable because
Yes.
all of a sudden you feel a little bit like, oh, I'm having FOMO, or
Right.
like all of these things. But at the end of the day, I have more power for how I'm going to live in this life because I'm choosing the frequencies I want to be surrounded with. And when I do drop into those lower frequencies, it impacts me severely. Like, I've had a headache for 3 days because I had to do XYZ. Well, then is that a place that I want to put my energy? Now, sometimes we have situations we don't have choices, right? Sometimes we have family members that are ill that we have
Yeah,
to help, and
sure.
maybe we have some lower frequencies we're dealing with this. But
Yes.
but here's the thing, this is where the practices come in,
Okay.
right? So when we have to go into some of those circumstances, then we have the opportunity to go, okay, I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to sage myself. I'm going to use my essential oils. I'm going to do some frequencies. I'm going to do some sound healing, like whatever it is you're bringing on board as your practices. That's when you're able to tap into them more easily because you've been using them when things were good. So then when things
Yes.
become misaligned, then we can bring ourselves back.
Exactly. And especially I feel when you're in such a heavy energy, you sometimes, for some reason, your body, your mind doesn't want to get out of it, right? But if you're used to doing those practices, you can so easily say to yourself, go do some tapping, go do some journaling, go for a walk, do the thing.
Yeah.
If you're not used to it, man, you're going to stay in that spiral for a while. That's for sure. So you talk about this professional high achieving woman that you work with. Why do you think that they specifically really struggle with burnout and self-doubt and this disconnect from self? Why? You would think a high achieving woman, right? She's got her shit together. It's all good. But they really do struggle with all these things: burnout, self-doubt, disconnect, the questioning, all the things. Why do you think that is?
They were trained. They were trained to show up in a certain way. So whether it was their upbringing, whether it was their schooling, whether it was the path of how they've chosen to navigate their career, they were trained to believe this is how, if I show up this way, then I will be well received, I will be well liked, I will be successful, whatever that I will be is for you.
Yeah.
So then what has happened is they're living this version that is outside of their authentic self.
Yeah.
So what I have seen is when the women I work with begin to shift here, things begin to get uncomfortable. I mean, like really uncomfortable, because all of a sudden people are like, you're not doing the things that you were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that imposter syndrome, that perfectionist mentality, that hustle mentality, right?
Yeah.
All of those begin to shift out because we're like, this doesn't feel good anymore. And so then when we start to really align and really live our purpose and our passion, because we can live that purpose and passion even in the careers that we're in. It's not like we have to leave what we're doing. It's just how can we be in that environment and be me, right? So I have this one client that when she started to find her authentic truths, all of a sudden it was like, okay, this job isn't working anymore. So what do I do?
Right. I want something more.
Right. And so she went through, a couple of different variations of finding a new job before she found the right fit. But she did the work while it was happening. And so now she's thriving. She is enjoying her job. She is having such great success and elevating her company because she is authentically doing what is her and not some version of her that she trained herself to be in another role.
Right.
And so, it's pretty magical. I mean, I had my own experience with that as I was shifting my business model over the last couple of years. And I had to do a lot of work around the imposter syndrome because I was like, all right, I want to go and I want to specifically work with a target audience that is a high achieving professional, or I want to go into organizations and help those organizations. And I was like, how do I take this hippy dippy yogi into that environment and still be me?
Yes, 100%. 100%. It's just that fear of rejection and judgment and everything. And do I know enough? And, do I have enough certifications? All the things. And imposter syndrome is such a thing. And Ramona, honestly, I feel so much more with women. I have a client, and we actually, in one of my programs, we go through 6 money blocks, and one of them is imposter syndrome. So it's so funny you mentioned that. And she was like, I've never heard of this before. What is this? What is this? She's like, oh my word, this makes sense in my life. Look. And she came onto one of the calls and she was saying, I was speaking to a male friend of mine, and she said to him, do you experience imposter syndrome? He's like, what do you mean? Like, what's that? So she told him, and he's like, no, I just go in, and if I want that job, I get it done. So I really think women struggle with this. And this is why I love that your niche is professional women that struggle. And sure, of course, you're going to have the odd guy. Sorry, guys,
Yeah.
out there watching. No offense.
And I do, but I know that who was knocking on my door the most was that archetype, the professional woman that was burnt out, stressed out, or stuck.
So how did you get over your imposter syndrome? Like going into the organizations, knowing they all collars, suits, and
yeah. So the first thing I did is I took a temp or contract job with a company where I went in and taught their content to corporate offices. So I just threw myself into it and was like, all right, I'm going to teach somebody else's content. And if I can go in and teach their content, I can teach mine without a beat.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, it took me about 3 months of going in, and I would be sweating and I would be anxious and I would be studying for like weeks before I went in this content. And then something shifted in December of this last year. And I went in and I did a talk, and I just decided that I was going to just show up. I was just going to show up. I was going to be me. I was going through a little bit of something emotionally at the time. And it was like, I just don't have the bandwidth for this. I have to just let spirit speak through me, which is what I've always done. So why am I not doing that here? And so there was this shift that happened where I remembered where my magic is. And where my magic is when I just allow the divine to use my voice and I stop trying to control it. Yeah. Then I can be the messenger for exactly who needs to hear it. And so ever since then, every single talk that I've done, I've just been like, I go in, I review their slides, and I'm like, okay, I see your notes. I don't really want to talk about it that way. I'm going to talk about it this way. And I just talk it from my scope of understanding. And I will tell you that I've had some really, really amazing talks within that company over the last couple of months. And I'm actually moving myself out of working for them because now I'm starting to bring online my own opportunities. And so the gift was that I about 2 weeks ago, I did my first talk with our local Chamber of Commerce. And I walked away and I knew that there was no imposter syndrome that was ever going to be back in that space for me, because I was like, I've got this. This is what I'm here to do. I know this.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I love everything. I had goosebumps the whole time. I absolutely love that. And I think people just believe that people are either born with confidence or not, right? And I believe it is a skill. And the minute that you connect with your true self, there's somehow just confidence there, right? You don't have to think about it. You just do it. It's so cool. I love it.
There's no question.
Yeah, it's so cool. I just love that. So anybody watching or listening, have you ever felt imposter syndrome? Do you feel that you are a little bit disconnected from your authentic self? Let us know in the comments. Have a chat. Let's have a chat. Okay, so Ramona has got a very cool free offering for everyone on this call. It is a quiz, and the quiz is From Stuck to Empowered. Discover your breakthrough step feelings. Okay, I'm going to ask you to explain it, because it is about breakthroughs and overwhelm, but I want you to put the quiz in your words, because I think this is such a cool quiz to take. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, we're all at different levels, right? So no one is like coming in at the exact same issue. That's why I have that, burnout, overwhelm, stuck. Like there's different levels of where burnout is like the top. Like once we get to burnout, we've experienced these other two already.
Okay. Yes, makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So are we feeling stuck? Are we feeling overwhelmed? Or are we burnt out? So the quiz is going to help you see where you're at. Ultimately, like what between 1 and 5, where are you landing? And then at the end, you're going to receive just a mini talk and some feedback that I'm going to give you about what steps you can take to help shift that.
Okay, cool.
Because ultimately, that's where the power is we have to have awareness, and then with awareness, we can do something about it. In addition to that, if you're like, wow, I really feel like I need some additional help and support, then you can tap into an exploratory call with me. I have a single offering just to kind of do an energy alignment check. So there's that initial offering that could happen, or we could drop you right into a deeper dive in the Empowered Authenticity program.
Yes, I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about your coaching program because it sounds really cool. What did you say the name was? It is in your bio?
Empowered Authenticity
Coaching program. That's it. Tell us a little bit about that program. So if anyone does feel the pull, feel like they're resonating with this and they just want to dive in, this is probably the program you need.
Yeah. So Empowered Authenticity is a holistic approach to self-exploration. So I incorporate meditation, I incorporate journaling, I incorporate introspection, I incorporate yoga, I incorporate all of these practices so that you can get connected to, first of all, where are you? Like, where are you right now? And become empowered to acknowledge that you got yourself here, right? Like you have a part in why you're where you're at. All right. So we start there, and then we start diving into the different layers. So my program is built through the chakra system, essentially. So we start out with the root, like, where are you? Are you grounded? Are you not grounded? Like, let's begin to understand what's going on with those different elements. So I'm not necessarily talking about the root chakra. Yes, I feed it in there, but I'm talking about the elements and the themes around that energy center that you need to self-explore so you can understand what you're doing and how you can shift that. Because without understanding and awareness, we can't shift. Without awareness or without shifting, we don't move forward. We just stay stuck. Oh, sure. So the whole program is then built on working through these lessons and then realigning yourself, aligning yourself to the way you want to be living, learning to live with intention, learning to live more mindfully, learning to reclaim your energy from things that you've been giving it away to.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, you know, the end of the program, the last lesson is about how do you integrate, how do you live what you've been taught? Because again, it's not just about like, okay, check, I did that lesson. It's how am I integrating this? How am I becoming the living embodiment of what I've learned? And that's really, really, to me, the most important part of the entire journey.
Yes, absolutely. It's shifting that identity. I think people, the last part in anything is to shift that identity. And I think people really struggle with it. And it's so nice if you go through the slow process, embodying. And when you look again, you are the identity. You don't even have to mentally force yourself. That's so good. I want to ask you about, you mentioned, or I even mentioned maybe reading your bio, that you do retreats. And I've got a feeling one's coming up, yes?
Yeah. So September 18th. September 18th through 23rd, I am leading a beautiful women's retreat in Montana, out in the mountains. And it is, this house is in this valley in between Yellowstone and Bozeman, Montana. And the experience is going to be immersive. So we're taking ourselves out of our norm and putting ourselves in a very specific container for 6 days. So in this container, we're going to do yoga, we're going to meditate, we're going to have circles, we're going to incorporate sound healing, we're going to adventure in the land of Montana, go into Yellowstone, go to the hot springs, and be with like-minded women and feel seen, heard, and honored. And so this retreat is called Roots of the Wild Soul. It is all about getting you back to your authentic self, getting into your roots and planting new seeds of how you want to leave from that experience and move your life forward.
Beautiful. So all these links will be in the description below. with Ramona's coaching program and the retreat, check out her website. Everything, all the links are there. You just have to click and play. And if you want to get hold of Ramona, her socials are down below as well. So you can check her out, you can follow her, you can stalk her, you can do all the things to try and just get into her world a bit. It's a beautiful world of energy. I promise you, you can't go wrong if you step into a world like that. Ramona, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. So much to talk about. I'm sure we could do this 10 times over and have new topics all the time. So thank you for showing up. I really appreciate your time and your guidance and your everything, your energy that you brought to the call. Absolutely beautiful. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to say to someone watching? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, so I'd like to just share that you have all the answers within you. Learning to quiet yourself, learning to pause, that's where you're going to find the power to make active choice.
Yeah.
We're either actively or passively manifesting our life, so let's do it actively.
For sure. Absolutely. Living on purpose. It's the best way. The best. Thank you so much. Believe in your magic, everybody. Lots and lots of love. Ramona, we'll catch up soon again, I'm sure. Keep well.
Thanks for that.
Bye, sweetie. Bye.